Hey, BiggerPockets, it's Matt. So today we're going to talk about a question I see all the time on the forums, and it's even beyond just LLCs and what are they and everything like that. It's, should I form an LLC for every deal? And this is, a lot of people even ask the question like, should I form an LLC at all, right? Well, yes, the first answer to that question. And what is an LLC? A lot of the basic stuff, that's all out there on the forums and other articles on that. We're going to talk about forming an LLC for every deal you do and why you should and why you shouldn't. Okay? And I have my opinion on this. I'm sure you'll see my opinion come out, but there are schools of thought on both of them. So let's review both schools of thought and then we'll get into what I think about it. Okay? So the reasons why you absolutely should is if you've got different owners. So that sounds like a simple thing, but let's say you buy property A with you and your brother-in-law, and you buy property B with just yourself or you and your wife, or you raise an investor that comes in and throws some private capital in your deal. All those three scenarios are all different setups and different ownership. So you should definitely have an LLC for each of those deals that has a different ownership breakdown, different percentages, different owner benefits, different owner rights and responsibilities, roles, goals, and compensation, and all that for each owner, for each LLC. And the operating agreement for the LLC will define all of those things. So yes, absolutely, if you have different owners, right? Now, you don't think about this, but this is a good one. If you are doing business in multiple states, okay, states in the union, in the country of the United States, you should definitely have an LLC for each state. Because if you don't, you will have to file the LLC that you're in as a foreign business entity in the state that you're working in. And in some states, you'll have to have a mailing address in that state somewhere. It becomes a pain in the neck. So it makes sense. And also you have to pay income tax in the state you're registered in. And you'll have to pay state income tax in the state you're doing business in. So it can cause double taxation for your LLC. And so it becomes simpler if you form an LLC that's in the state that you're doing business in. That's number two. Now, I do this sometimes. Sometimes I don't. It depends on who it actually depends on more on the owners that I'm partnered with. But fix and flips. Okay? Now, why would you want to form an LLC for each fix and flip you do, Matt? I'll answer that question for you folks asking that. I don't do it, first of all, the reason I don't do it on every flip is if it's just my company, just the DeRosa group that's doing the flip. The DeRosa group is an S corporation, and DeRosa group has W-2 salaries that it pays, and it also has business income. I have a video out there that you guys want to watch on why S corporations are awesome, where I interview my CPA. It's on BiggerPockets, and he and I talk about this. I'll put it in the show notes in the link. You guys can link to that conversation. But that's why you want to do flips, not in an LLC, but using an S Corp, because there's great tax benefits for doing flips in an S Corporation. If you don't have an S Corp, and if you don't have W-2 salaries that you're paying yourself, and then business income on top of that, then you want to form an LLC for every deal. Here's why. I asked that question earlier, and let me answer that question, okay? If you sell 123 Main Street to a home buyer, and that home buyer's happy, they go on down the road, and then you start flipping another property. The first home buyer could have a liability claim. They could have issues come up with themselves or something like that. And if they go to, it closes down the entity that did that flip, and that flip is now behind you, and it's done. You know, and then you do a new flip that's designated for that property, and then it compartmentalizes the project and doesn't link one project through an LLC to another. If you were to have a liability claim, okay? And odds are, if you have a liability claim, you will have canceled your insurance, which is another thing we're going to talk about big time. You will have canceled your liability insurance on the property you sold a while ago by the time that property was sold. So from protection to close the door and to close the project down, it makes sense to have an LLC for every address. It's a bit of a protection, a bit of a level of protection that you can have in there. I do it sometimes, don't do it all the time. And most of the time when I do it, it's because of this. It's because I have a partner in the flip. But it's something that some people do to compartmentalize the flip so that whatever happens on this flip can't affect other projects they may have going on or have done in the past. Okay? Is that right? Is that right? Okay. Now, here's a big reason why people do LLCs on every deal, and we're going to discuss this one in great detail, but that's for asset protection. The school of thought on that is if I own 456 Main Street, and that's my rental, because 123 Main Street was my flip. Remember that? So 456 is my rental down the road. And I also own property over here and a couple other properties. And if somebody were to sue me on a liability claim for a slip and fall on 456 Main Street, that person could not come through and affect my ownership on the other properties and take my entire portfolio, right? Because the properties are all under one umbrella, so they can't go sue that LLC and, go and pull all that LLC's assets and everything like that, right? That's the school of thought, is asset protection. It compartmentalizes your assets. So 456 Main Street and 123 High Street and 123 Second Street are all in separate companies, okay? That is the school of thought. We will debate that in just a moment, my friend. But now, here's reasons why you should not get an LLC for every deal, okay? Number one, biggest one, is it's not required by law. You don't have to. Any attorney or whatever that would tell you that you have to do it by law is wrong. So there's no law around having to form an LLC for every deal you do. There's also, this is maybe why I don't do it, is for cost. If you form an LLC for every deal, there is a filing fee for that LLC, at least in setting it up. There is a CPA fee for filing that LLC's tax returns. Now, I see people debate, well, what about single member LLCs and stuff like that? I think it's very easy to see through a single member LLC because it doesn't even have a tax return. And so that can be debated too if you like. But typically, if it's not a single member LLC and if it has several members, the costs associated with maintaining that LLC, from paying your CPA to paying filing fees to the state that you're in, can start to add up, especially if you're buying a bunch of little small single-family homes or small multis or something like that. This will become a factor. Okay. Now, there's one other reason why you want to not get an LLC for every deal, meaning you want to portfolio properties, you want to buy a bunch of properties under one umbrella. Big reason why you want to do that, which in turn means that you don't want to do an LLC for every deal. So that answer is no for that. But why you would want to put them all under one umbrella or a larger umbrella is because it makes it easier to get loans, believe it or not. Everybody talks about portfolio lenders and stuff like that. If you're buying, $50,000, $60,000 houses and renting them out, it will be harder to get a lender that wants a $50,000 to $60,000 loan, right? Myself and a lot of people that are in my part of the world do the BRRRR strategy, the buy, rehab, rent out, refinance, repeat method, but they'll do it on a small portfolio of properties. They'll do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 addresses at a time. You couldn't do that if you were doing an LLC for each one of those deals. If you portfolio the properties under one LLC, as this would say that you're doing, then you've now created a loan amount that banks will talk to you about. Banks don't want to lend $50,000, $60,000. They'd rather lend you $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. So why not create a loan of that size? It's more appealing to them. It's the same amount of work, but it's more fees. They get to make more money and they get to meet their costs and their goals. Much easier if they give you a big loan versus this little small loan that it would be if you did it on this side. So consider that. Now, here's the big conversation, okay? And this is the asterisk, Matt Faircloth's strong opinion about these things, but it's also been my experience. The reason why is because this is not true, okay? Is that that insurance will protect you just as well as an LLC will, okay? And it's not that it's not true you don't get asset protection at all, but you don't get any more asset protection, I don't think, in having multiple LLCs for every deal that you do, for every single family home that you own, or for every rental property that you have. There's no further asset protection you get in having each deal in one LLC than having a portfolio of properties under one LLC. Here's why, okay? If an attorney sues your LLC because their client, had a slip and fall, listen, I've been in business for 11 years. I've had like 3 slip and falls. I've had a tenant claimed a piece of sheetrock fell off her ceiling and hit her in the head. We had a guy that claimed he slipped and fell on carpet in his apartment, right? And he broke his back, by the way. He broke his back falling on carpet in his apartment, okay? I may have some other liability stuff out there too. So we've unfortunately had liability claims many, many times. Not one time, and not one time anybody else that I know did the attorney suing try to pierce the corporate veil, okay? Meaning to try and reach into the LLC and get a hold of the assets, to try and foreclose on the assets, or even further, this gets really scary, to pierce the corporate veil and come after me personally, to try and get my home or my personal cash or my car or whatever, which is what some people worry about. And that's why this whole LLC thing is there. Like, oh, I don't want him to come get my stuff, to come get my house, or to have to file bankruptcy because the tenant slipped and fell at my property. None of that's going to happen. And here's why. My attorney friends out there, I love you, but attorneys are lazy. And attorneys, maybe they do what they have to do, and they're going to go after this. They're going to go after insurance. They're going to go after general liability insurance. And just every claim that I've had, I even have one attorney just submit a letter that said, hey, my client's going to sue. Please submit this letter to your insurance company so that we can work out an arrangement. That's it. They didn't even want to sue me, really. They just sent a letter saying that, hey, we're going to sue you, and send this letter to your insurance company. Can you believe that? So I actually called the lawyer on that one. I said, hey, if you're going to send this letter, you might as well I'm not going to send this to my insurance company. You need to go ahead and sue me. And they didn't, by the way. They let it go because it was a bogus claim. But attorneys that have real conversations and people that have real slip and falls and stuff like that, that's what insurance is there for. And so, there's large insurance policies that you have on your properties. And by the way, you should have, the larger these portfolios get, the larger insurance policies you should get to cover potential general liability claims. So you start out, maybe you have $1 million coverage with $2 million aggregate, meaning that $2 million is the most that they'll cover for multiple occurrences, right? But if you have multiple properties, you can up it to say $2 million or $4 million, or go up from there. Talk to your insurance agent about what's available for multiple properties. There's even things called umbrella insurance coverage. You can get a lot of insurance, and it's going to be cheaper than running around with a bunch of LLCs, right? So insurance, my friends, is the reason why, and just the way the world works, and fortunately, unfortunately, that insurance will step in and take care of you way before an attorney or a lawsuit is going to get through all this LLC stuff and to go and try and take the equity in another property or put a lien. And by the way, it will take them years to do one of those foreclosure filings and to come and put a lien and foreclose on the property and to come and get your stuff and everything like that. It would take them years to do that, where an insurance claim could take anywhere from 6 to 9 months. Okay, so maybe they're lazy, maybe they're not. Maybe they just know where the money is, right? So anyway, that's why I say I recommend no for an LLC for every deal. There's other folks out there. I'd love to get into a conversation with you about it. Other schools of thought I know, and I'm a little wild west sometimes in my business, but I'd be happy to go into conversation with some of you folks who are more conservative and think this is a good thing to do. Let's talk about that. So as always, if you want to leave some comments down below, love to hear your thoughts, yay or nay on this. As always, guys, I sure appreciate you guys watching and getting a conversation with us. And have a great and profitable week.